We're at a turning point in our ascension process, and I would go so far as to describe this as a phase shift in our journey. This is going to be about density anchors dissolving. So let me explain to you what a density anchor is. And when I do, it's going to make you go, oh my God, that explains so much about my life and why I couldn't move on when I thought that I was supposed to. We heal, and we heal, and we heal. And sometimes, for some of you, you've healed the same thing over and over again. But it keeps popping up, it keeps resurging. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one is because you try to heal in the head, which is not healing at all. That's a little bit of a spiritual bypass. But number two is because there's something called a density anchor. We all came in with these density anchors, and they were important to us. Do you know why? Without them, we would have ascended into 5D. And that's not what we came here to do. And I know a lot of you have just gone, what? What is she talking about? Okay, let me explain this. We came in, and when I say we, I'm talking about the light workers. How do you know if you're a light worker? Because you work with light. It truly is, honestly, that simple. If you are awakening, you are a light worker. The awakening journey is all about letting more light into the body, which brings up and purges more density, which makes you feel wacky and crazy and completely out of it. That's the awakening journey in a nutshell. It's more light coming in because you have the receptors to work with more light. Hence light worker. The light workers are what we could think of as a rescue team. We overlooked what was going on planet Earth, and when I say we, think of this as you in your soul form, your higher essence, overviewed what was taking place on the planetary surface, on Earth, inside of the false matrix. Bear in mind that you are a soul that can have many bodies, an oversoul that can have many souls. One of the journeys that you were journeying was here on planet Earth. That's why you had a vested interest. Or maybe you didn't have a body, that is one of the bodies of your soul showing up here, but you had family, what we could think of as soul family or even cosmic family. So you did what all light beings do, what the angelics do, what the beings of love do, what the ascended masters do, what the ascended ones do. You held light, and guess what happened? Nothing. Because the people on the surface couldn't read your light, because they lost their receptors, because they'd been inside of the false matrix for so long that they were lost to the false matrix. Because the truth is, we can awaken at any time. But in order to awaken, you must acknowledge that you've been asleep, and that's the problem. A lot of people that got stuck inside of the false matrix began to defend the illusion that they had accepted as their own identity. They began to defend the lie. And that's when they were lost. That's when forgetting became a state of being that they would defend. And that's when the rescue workers came in, which is the light workers today. We didn't come in to rescue them, though. That's a little bit of a horrible word to use, rescue workers, because it sounds like, oh boy, without us, they couldn't have done it on their own. The truth is, some of them might have, but a lot of them would have been lost. And when I say lost, they would have been repopulated into another false matrix. And that's not what this entire journey was about. This entire coming into the false matrix was to collapse the false matrix from the inside. But like I said, a lot of them got lost. So we, the light workers, came in as the rescue crew. We knew what that entailed, though. Density anchors. See, I'm still going to get there. We knew what that would entail, that we would have to hold a certain amount of density that we were not used to. So we would come in and we would feel weird. We would feel like this place isn't home. My family feels weird to me. I feel weird to me. Everything feels foreign. I feel like an alien on a planet which doesn't even believe in aliens. So imagine that. There was such a dichotomy of being, because on one hand, you were trying to blend in, trying your damnedest to be like everybody else, trying to just be a good boy or a good girl, fit in, toe the line, do what your teachers said, do what your parents told you to do, but you couldn't do it because you were never like them. You were holding a different frequency. Light worker, that is what describes you. Now, some people will refer to this, by the way, as being the 144 frequency or the frequency of the chosen ones. It's all the same thing. So the light workers held themselves in 3D, which was a very unnatural state of being, because these were either aspects of your own higher soul self, your own consciousness that had come in to an existing soul form, meaning one of the bodies that your soul was in the process of animating. There's a video, by the way. If that doesn't make sense to you, there's a video that I put up describing souls, over souls, twin flames, and soulmates. That's all in one video, and I will link it for you in the description box. But nonetheless, your soul came in to the being that was on the surface, to the human being. Some people would refer to this, by the way, as a walk-in. Do you know that a walk-in most of the time is just your own soul coming online? It's your own soul just zapping into the body. But in order for that soul to stay in the body, it needed density anchors. These were what we would refer to as traumas. Those damn things that you kept healing, that kept coming back again. It's because they were embedded in a part of your DNA Akashic record, meaning a part of the blueprint. They were embedded there to keep you in 3D. But guess what's happening now? This is so amazing. This is so profound for us. I could weep at the beauty of what this is. The density anchors are finally dissolving, which means what? Which means we don't have to hold ourselves so constantly in 3D anymore. We're allowed to heal completely now. A lot of those density anchors are going to dissolve without you even knowing that they're dissolving, because you've already done a lot of work on them. Or if they don't dissolve as a natural organic byproduct of living your everyday life, you'll find that now when you engage in healing practice, now suddenly the root becomes visible. Now suddenly you can get to the core of what you couldn't get to before. This is something that I notice all the time in my members group. We meet once a week. We're called the Plasma Light Tribe, and this is where I hold people in sacred stillness, in sacred spaces, in order to do the energetic work that I speak to you about here. And in this beautiful container, I notice so often that I'll say the same thing in different ways, week after week. Very often the same or similar vibe comes up. Things like you can't move on from where you are till you are where you are. Things like you have to step into presence. If you want to step into enlightenment, you first have to step into presence. These are all things that we go through. We talk about alchemy, and it's the same things that very often seem to be such big, elusive things for people. And then one day, so obvious. One day, the lights come on. One day, it's as if they've never heard me say it before. They suddenly get it. And this is because energetically, we've been priming ourselves, working towards that moment where that puzzle piece could finally sink into place. It wasn't because the healing wasn't available, the puzzle piece wasn't there, the wisdom wasn't there. It was there all along. It's going to be so obvious to you. And a lot of you are just going to have overnight epiphanies. From now until the rest of Ascension, you're just going to go, that's so obvious now. Why didn't I see that before? I can't believe I struggled with this so much. I can't believe I kept rehashing this. I can't believe I couldn't work through this. I can't believe that this was so complicated to me when the answer is so damn obvious and so simple. So let's talk about the Ascension symptoms that you might go through as you experience this dissolving of density. So you can feel all sorts of things, from very sluggish to very slow to very slowed down, because as the density dissolves, it bubbles upward and outward. And as it comes out, you feel brain foggy and you just feel a heaviness. You can feel retention, water retention, weight retention, like you're holding in your tears. And then just as quickly as the retention comes, the release comes. I've had a weird thing where I've been battling to sleep for nights on end, battling. Suddenly, what is going on? I'm sleeping in the day, which I could never do before. And at night, when I sleep, I am sleeping. I'm sleeping so deep. This is part of the restructuring, literally, of your biology. It starts at the energetic level. Then it begins to seep from the energetic level into the physical level. So these ascension symptoms, so to speak, will be very, very tangible, physical. A lot of what we're going to experience here is limbo, or void. I'm in a weird void space and we avoid the void. So don't do that. Don't hold back. Just trust this process because really there's nowhere else to go but through this. So that limbo feeling, that feeling like you're unplugged, like you're just out. You're out of time. You're out of sync. You're out of reality. Well, it's because you're out of the old reality. Remember, density is going to bubble up and out, and it comes out in all sorts of ways. It can come out as a rash. It can come out as an allergy. You can come out in hives. You can come out with all sorts of just stuck things that were inside of you that you can't even name. You don't have to analyze this. You shouldn't analyze this. This is allowing the path, allow the process. You're going to find that you become the ripple of a higher resonance frequency then. And then you've stepped into the next phase of what we're here to do. First, we were to hold light in density. Yes, makes perfect sense, right? The light workers realized that when we were just holding light, the beings on the surface couldn't read us. They'd lost the receptors to read that much light. So we had to come on to the surface as one of them, forgetting as one of them, but not being able to forget completely. So that was that weird place where we had those density anchors in place, but at the same time, we had access to these higher light codes. That's why we were always the weirdos, because we felt like we were living in two places at the same time, because essentially we were. We don't have to hold ourselves in 3D anymore because the planetary consciousness, we've had so much happening. We've had dragon energy coming in. We've had so much. We've had plasma beings coming in. We've had rods of light stabilizing for us. We have had the ring of fire being activated through so many plasma beings and celestial beings coming in to support us. The light workers held so powerfully, so beautifully. The light workers held stability through all of that, protecting the frequency, protecting the planet. The light workers have done so much more. Like when I say so much more, way more than you would ever dare to imagine, that you would ever dare to dream possible. That's what the light workers have been doing, but all from that very dense 3D place. We don't need to live there anymore because the earth is moving into 5D. No, she's not 5D yet. No, we haven't ascended yet. I promise you, we will all know when that happens. You guys in the spiritual community, there's a lot of bypassing going on. There's a lot of people going, Ascension doesn't need to happen anymore. We're past that. There's people that say, we're already ascended. There's people that say, we're already in 5D. What a heap of hogwash. We're so 3D. However, at the physical level, that is, at the physical level, we're still in 3D. But at the level of consciousness, we can very easily step into 5D now. So here's something worth noting. You live in a body that is 3D, in a timeline that is 4D, in a consciousness that is 5D, meaning you can access 5D consciousness in a 4D timeline through a 3D body. No wonder we felt like we were all over the place, because we really were holding all of those frequencies. We no longer have to hold the density of that third dimensional frequency, which means that we can shift more into wherever we're acclimated. Each one of us is going to be different. Maybe you're acclimated more towards 4D, maybe you're acclimated more towards 5D, and I know you're going to ask me what the difference is. 4D, you guys, is very similar to 3D. It's just lighter, but here's an interesting thing. When you're in 4D, time goes weird. Time is broken from the perspective of 4D because time is very simultaneous in 4D, and that's why we've all had this experience. I know you've had it, where 10 minutes feels very dilated, like you got a lot done, or it felt for that 10 minutes felt very long, but then 10 hours feels like 10 seconds. You remember something so clearly that happened 6 days ago, but you can't remember what happened 6 minutes ago. There's all of these time anomalies where look at 2025. How are we nearing the end of 2025? And I promise you in 2026, 27, and 28, we will say exactly the same thing, because time is doing this weird bobbing, warping into a speed up and a slow down. That's very much a byproduct of the 4D frequency that we've been living in. So we're going to have a lot more time anomalies. Just be prepared for that. That's part of the 4D experience. In my online community right now, we're busy doing a theme. Every month we do a new theme. We're busy doing a theme about intuition and awakening your psychic senses, because that's very much part of the 4D energy. You're going to start thinking differently, connecting to yourself differently, connecting to life differently. You may feel like you're losing it, but you're actually not. You're losing the illusion. You're gaining access to the true self. So this is not a time to control. Please if you want to do yourself a favor, do it. Step out of the linearity of the intellect and logic. That doesn't mean be illogical. It means be logical from your wisdom, from your depth. This is all about engaging more with your embodiment. So 4D looks similar to 3D at the lower rungs of 4D. But every dimension, whether it's 3D, 7D, 12D, doesn't matter, every dimension has multiple steps inside of it. It's an entire bandwidth, which can take sometimes hundreds of years, sometimes thousands of years, to work through the various bandwidths available in one dimension. So we hear the word 4D and we think it's one place, not realizing 4D is made up of what you could think of as stairs. So you get lower 4D, mid 4D, upper 4D. And obviously upper 4D is way more like 5D. 5D is where things change dramatically, because 5D is where you lose blame, you lose judgment, you gain discernment, and you feel yourself as an integrated wholeness, less fragmented. 3D, very analytical, very judgment-based, very devoted to blame. Let's work out who's wrong in all of this, because the more wrong somebody else is, the more right and redeemed we can be. So when we were operating spiritually in the third dimension, we were working with a lot of things like spiritual bypassing and escapism, and you'll just feel yourself naturally noticing all of that now as those density anchors finally dissolve. So that means you're going to elevate. For some of you, you're going to elevate overnight. For some of you, you're going to wake up and just feel so indescribably different. You can't put a word to it. You can't put a name to it. It's not quite a spiritual awakening. It's something else. Okay, this is the shift that I'm talking about. As those density anchors dissolve, that which held you and grounded you, that you couldn't move past in the third dimension, now elevates you into holding your reality more fourth dimensional, because the timeline is now holding more of that fourth dimensional. Please, again, let me clarify, that doesn't mean that we have had our ascension. Ascension is when the body goes 5D, just so that you know. Remember I said we can access 5D consciousness, which is very, very different to accessing 5D at the physical level and living as a fifth dimensional being. There's a lot of cellular change that happens, and that happens at the ascension events. There is some kind of possibility that we could have individual ascensions, but we as light workers are busy warping and changing that roadmap as we go. So I can't give you anything of definitive outcome there yet. Right now, we're looking at one global ascension point, which is known as the micronova or the solar flash. When is that? It is when it is. It is when we're all ready for it. There is no time, there is no date. Could be this afternoon, could be in 10 years' time, 10 days' time. It happens when it happens. We're living through the transition right now. Don't try speed this up. This is where you're inside the cocoon. That's where we all are right now. In the cocoon, preparing to metamorphosize into the fifth dimensional body state. So this is a very exciting turning point for all of us. Will the density anchors all dissolve overnight? Hell no, because that could lead to psychosis. If the density anchors dissolve overnight, that could lead, from that 3D perspective that we've been so ensnared in, so enmeshed in, to a complete I don't know who I am crisis. So they'll dissolve little bit by little bit. Your soul's in charge of this. You're not. You're the one that allows your soul to work with you and through you, but you don't direct the show now. Your soul is the part of you that orchestrates that which you create room for. So create room for presence, connection, stillness, for devoted time with yourself. It's crazy how we devote time to scrolling, to others, to work, to all of the places where we're enslaved, and we moan about those places, but then we don't necessarily create time for ourselves. And when we do, we don't realize that part of the so-called relaxing time that we create, which might be TV time or Netflix time or scrolling time, that's ensnaring us more into the enslavement program. So when I say create time for yourself, I'm talking about time to really meet you, be with yourself, not running away. These pregnant pauses that I'm holding for you here are energetic entry points to work with a depth inside yourself that's calling you. And if you want to work at those levels, then reach out to the Plasma Light Tribe joining link. I will leave it in the description box below. That's your support. That's where I can work with you so much deeper than what I can offer you here. Nonetheless, the time is right now, and it's ripe right now for you to ascend into higher and higher frequencies. As that happens, don't hold on to anything. And now is the time to trust that light of yours a whole lot more. From my heart, truly and deeply, all the way into yours. So much love. I hope you feel it. And I hope you let it in and let it support you, because now you can elevate. Now there's a relief happening and a release happening. Now you don't have to hold the density that you could never quite move beyond. You don't have to hold that anymore. Go ahead and watch this video next. This might be exactly what you're being called to explore.